Greetings from Toronto, Ontario. I am Shmuel Neft, otherwise known as Rabbi NFT.
And I'm Davi Kiebman, joining you from Erie, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the Millennial Rabbis podcast.
As Chabad rabbis born in the 90s, we bridged the gap between two very distinct Jewish communities on opposite shores of Lake Erie.
Join us as we navigate the complexities of the modern world, offering fresh perspectives on the challenges we face today.
Let's make sense of it all together. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Millennial Rabbis podcast. It is me, Shmuel Neft. My co-host, Davi Kiebman, is under house arrest with all of his children. Davi, solidarity with you. We're actually recording on Wednesday night, the 19th of February. Tonight is the official beginning of the Chabad emissary convention for the females, the Kinos HaShluchos. And so, Davi, I know your wife is there, and you're not able to record. So we have a special guest. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you're a millennial. I think you don't pass the cut. You're a Gen Z rabbi already, right? Born in 97.
I was born 98.
98. You're okay. So this is a very special episode. Because we have not a millennial rabbi, we have a Gen Z rabbi, because that's where we are today. We have Gen Z rabbis. Anybody, I don't know if you know, Yitzchak, the difference between a millennial and Gen Z is the border is 1996, 1997. And so I just make the cutoff as a millennial. But yeah, this is very cool because you're the first Gen Z rabbi guest on this podcast. Your name is Yitzchak. Your last name is Achter, Yitzchak Achter. And it's very funny because those friends of ours that would hear this episode, they would get kind of where we know each other from, but the outside world probably doesn't. So I'll explain. In Chabad, we have an interesting culture in the sense that Chabad is a worldwide community, and it and no matter where you are in the world or where you've been educated, the epicenter of Chabad is Crown Heights in New York and 770 Eastern Parkway. Chabad headquarters, and listeners of this podcast have heard this already. And you have friends that you went through school together. You have friends that you went to camp with, and then you have people that you kind of just know from around because they're what we call Tishrei faces. What is a Tishrei face?
Know them,
You just know them, right? So I don't know, Yitzchak, my earliest recollection of you is you coming for the Tishrei holidays back in the day. We're talking like 8-9 years ago. I actually recently, if you remember, I found a picture that you actually photobombed by accident.
Right. Yeah. I think you sent it to me. Yeah. Correct.
And so this kind of realm of friendship or of acquaintanceness, that's not a word, but is called, we call Tishrei faces. It's like people that you don't necessarily know them, but you see them around. They end up showing up in Crown Heights like once a year at some point, and then as you grow older, perhaps they come. You start seeing the person more often because they came to yeshiva. So like we were in 770 basically at the same time at some point. So we kind of crossed paths and we just know each other from around, which is like one of the features of Chabad culture, which is that you know people from around. I know people like, I don't know, you were in Israeli yeshivas, but a lot of the people that you were in yeshiva with, I know them by face. So if I saw them in Israel, I would recognize them. But I don't really know who they are. I don't know anything about them. I don't know their names, but you see people. Anyway, without rambling on for too long, Yitzchak Achter, it's nice to have you on the podcast. You're different, not just because you're Gen Z, but also because you are not someone that is yet a Chabad rabbi, quote unquote, in the field. You are an educator. And you also dabble in a few other different things, and we want to get into that and kind of get to know you and see your perspective. And you're also very interesting because it seems like you like history. You like politics. Happens to be that Yitzchak and I were both in Washington D.C. for the inauguration of the most recent presidential inauguration. I didn't see you there, but it's very funny that we both. Huh? That's right. You made it into the stadium, and maybe maybe we should talk about that. It'd be interesting to hear about your perspective and how that went, especially as someone that's not as we'll get to know, not someone that wasn't born in America, didn't grow up in America. But it seems like you and I both had the same mindset, which is like, we're happy to be not so far away, and let's take advantage of being able to see history or seeing the political process or the peaceful transfer of power play itself out. So again, it's nice to have you on. Well, let's go back to where you're from. You have an interesting background. You're one of similarity. Similarity that we share is that not that I'm originally from Ukraine. My family's originally from Ukraine. My wife is from Ukraine, but you are also from Ukraine. And you kind of grew up there. And it happens to be that my community here in Toronto is comprised a lot of Soviet immigrants, which in other words, people that left the Soviet countries between the years of 1970 through 1991, 1992, and most of them, were in the later 80s, early 90s, and they left a place that had a desolate Jewish life. Now, the Jewish life was desolate, and I in my own experience, even back when I was a yeshiva student in Morristown, New Jersey, I used to visit old Russians in these old age homes, and also in New York, I would go to the Diamond District every Friday, and I would get into arguments with people about whether or not Jewish life was viable in places like Ukraine. And meanwhile, I was traveling to there. I was a camp counselor in Ukraine. I was traveling to Kazakhstan. Anyone that knows me knows about all these stories. I love to tell them. And I came back telling about this new world to people, and they couldn't believe it. They refused to believe it. I remember there was one Bukharian jeweler that I used to go to every week on 47th Street in the Diamond District, and he would not relent. He's like, it's impossible to have Jewish life in that place. And here you are, a literal product of Jewish life in the former Soviet Union, which most people would think would have thought was impossible. And here you were, it's that community came literally from out of the ashes 30 years ago, and it's making superstars like yourself. Tell us a little background about yourself.
Okay, so I guess you already gave me an introduction.
I forgot to mention you're a podcaster too, by the way. I'm a podcaster too, in addition to the fact that you're a podcaster.
I have a small podcast, not like yours, but still, I'm just kidding.
Podcast in Russian, by the way, which is, again, Russian Jewish content is very cool. So we'll get into that. But go ahead.
Basically, okay, so as we mentioned, I'm from Ukraine, from the city of Dnieper, former Yeka, where Rebbe's father was the rabbi, and where actually the Rebbe himself grew up until some age. No, okay, that's about the city basically. Now about me so I was born after the Soviet Union, born in Ukraine as independent country, basically. I grew up from, we can say, went to the Cheder, and I had my Jewish education over there. And then when I was about the age of bar mitzvah, a little bit later, we made Aliyah. I moved to Israel, and I learned in Mesivta and Zal in Israel.
You're saying which translated is like yeshiva high school and post secondary. 1 second. So you grew up. Okay, so you grew up your whole life. You're religious.
Meaning, yeah. I was one of the first kids to get their bris on time.
Really? 8 days.
Yeah. I even have like a paper. I can find it right now, but I have like a paper from Yasha Gesinovich. He is still the male in the area, but he like signed that this kid got his bris on that day of this year, and that's the name, wherever, and stamped it.
Yasha's a legendary mohel. You ever been with him when he's done a bris before?
Yeah, and because actually I was one of the first babies he ever did, and he told me, I spoke to him. It was very nervous, so he remembers me. Like he told me, you actually, I don't remember anyone, but you remember.
He's very funny because when I was in Camp Yeka one summer, we had a camper that did that decided to have a bris, 6 years old, Marik, and he and basically I was a sandik, I was holding his head while he was on the thing. By the way, didn't look. I refused to look. I looked down the entire time. But I will never forget that from start to finish, Yasha was throwing jokes left and right, like, really, really subject appropriate jokes, which was very, very funny. So he's a moil with a really great sense of humor.
Yeah, that's the guy.
It was very hard not to laugh when he was cracking jokes while doing the thing, So that's very funny. And are you a Chupin graduate?
Not exactly, again, because basically I learned like a grade younger, even though I was the oldest in the class, because it was like, how to explain it? Until some period of time, there was no like shluchim kids in the cheder, because there were, I guess, the shluchim came later. They have the younger kids. So basically, I tried to go, how it played out. Basically, I went when I was first grade. I went to the cheder, which was completely under Chupin. There was no other thing then, and it didn't go so well for me. So for like a couple of years, I learned in the school where my mother was the teacher, and then I moved when there was already a few classes
in the Jewish school.
Yeah. And then when there were a few like normal classes in the cheder, then basically I moved back to cheder. That's how it played out. So I was basically the oldest in the class. I learned with the shluchim kids mostly. Yeah. So
I did not know that. I actually didn't know that you moved to Israel when you were 13. I thought you moved to Israel much later in life.
No, I moved when I was after bar mitzvah, basically for yeshiva. Yeah.
So you'll find this funny. One Aryin Zevich once told me that to get to your house is like to get to your house in Israel is like 3 checkpoints and like a few different very scary villages, and like your place is like
totally about how getting yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. I was at his house, and it was when you were sitting shiva, and he told me that like the journey it took to get to your house. So you live very, very deep in
Yeah, we lived in a village in it's called Mateh Binyamin. Basically, it's not exactly what's called in English, Judea and
Samaria.
Yeah, it's a different part of the land, which is basically part of the tribe of Binyamin.
But it's on the other side of the green line. I'm saying it's when the Israelis call the Shtachim. No.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Yeah. Meaning, from my window, I could have seen Ramallah.
Oh, so you were on the. Okay, so you're on. That's where it is.
Yeah.
Near Ofra. Near Ofra. You know where Ofra is?
It's near Modin. Where the Hanukkah story happened. The Maccabees actually they hid in the mountains where I lived. Yeah.
Very cool. That's the Jewish heartland.
Oh yeah.
The Jewish heartland that some people still want us to give away, but anyway. And so and you live today in New York. So how did tell us a little bit about how you got from Ukraine to the hills of the Judean hills, and then how did you end up in New York?
So I did end up in New York. Basically, after I finished Zal, which, as you said, it's like the postgraduate, wherever. Yeah.
Post-secondary in Canada.
Post-secondary, yeah. Not
college.
Not the English terms,
Yeah.
So I came to learn 770 for it's something special for
Israel.
The other people don't have it. Nobody who learns in Europe or America doesn't have it. It's something special the Rebbe made only for those who learn in Israel, that they can come to here, the 770, learn the whole year of a year and basically see what's happening in 770 when during the time of the Rebbe. You see the Rebbe, then you could have seen all the holidays and all the things that are happening. Now it's still you can come for the whole year and be part of the special atmosphere of 770.
Nowadays, you have a lot of American boys that go and learn the Israeli system, and then they come back for their kvutz a year.
Yeah, that also happens.
There's a kid from Canada. There's a kid from Toronto that's in kvutz this year. You were in Aaron's Kvutza, right? Aaron Roskovsky's Kvutza. That was that year.
Right. Yeah, the same year.
I used to see. I don't know if you remember. If you remember, he and I used to sit in 770, learn together.
Right. Yeah, I remember. Yada Chavrusa.
Yeah, those were the good old days. It was actually, I had a kid already, but I was learning with him in 770 every day. Well, actually, I had a kid and then we left 2 months later. But before that, I'm saying I was married. I was pregnant, and so you basically came and you stayed.
Yeah, basically after that year, I went to be a dorm counselor in Queens Yeshiva. I was there for about 2 years, and then then I entered the whole idea of Yeka, where I wasn't so involved.
Yeah, that's right. So let's double click on that actually, because Yeka is a very integral part of my my life, and it seems like yours as well. I actually have a Yeka flag here on my window. I'm not going to turn the camera because it'll be a whole to do. But so what Yeka basically is this camp that every year has been done since the mid-late 90s. It's basically a camp where all the counselors
used to be like Garisro, Dnipro Petrovs, and then turned into Yeka, I think, in the beginning of 2000, something like that.
So it's definitely it's changed forms over the years in different ways, but basically, it still remains, no matter which form it's turned into, it remains this ragtag group of American rabbinical yeshiva students that fundraise money in order to be able to go to slave away to give Jewish Ukrainian boys the time of their lives. For me, Yeka was a transformative experience for me because it was really I kind of came out from outside of Chabad. I was not in the quote unquote system, and Yeka, the fact that I was brought on and then built this friend group really helped me integrate into the system. And a lot of those friends I consider some of my closest friends. In fact, I was just on the phone with Levi Berger tonight. He gave me a call tonight. We had a little video call. Levi and I, you know how I met Levi.
No.
Levi and I are exactly the same age. We're born within a few weeks of each other, or a month or two of each other. And we basically there were 3 of us that were flying from Israel to Ukraine for camp. Me, Mendy Rosen, and Avram Edry. Avram Edry was our photographer. And basically we get out of passport control, and this Polish guy, this Hasidish guy, comes up to me. I'm like, I didn't expect to see a guy like that in Ukraine. And he says, "Are you guys the Zhytomyr guys?" Like, he saw obviously that we were Lubavitchers, and he came to us because of that. And I'm like, yeah. So he's like, well, there's this random kid wandering around, doesn't speak a word of the local language, and doesn't know what to do with himself. And he says that there's a bunch of his friends that are coming on an airplane soon. He's right over there. And that was the first time that we met. It was very funny. He was like, this guy, I'm saying now, Levi is very funny because he speaks fluent Russian now, but he didn't speak a word of Russian before.
Yeah, now it's actually, decent. Yeah.
Like Levi, like, is wearing his blue shirt, unbuttoned, his stuff is all over the place, and he just was looking for himself. And we basically, so that was a really great group that we had that year. And I was there for another year. And then a few years later, you joined up. How many summers did you go? You're still at camp. You're still
summers. I was there not so long. I was there just 2 summers. Yeah.
Oh, you don't do it anymore.
I can't really. I'm also Ukrainian citizen, so if I go, I can leave.
Oh, right. They have a camp. That's right. They have camp in Ukraine now. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I don't know. For me, it was transformational in so many ways. Like, it was the first time also I was, first of all, I picked up smoking there, by the way. The gift keeps on giving. Not only, I can tell you, it's very funny. I'll tell you the moment I became a smoker was pulling out of the airport on the bus. But for me, it was like the first time that I felt like I was doing something transformative. And like I said, I was kind of new to the whole thing. I was coming from out of the system. I was coming from a different yeshiva system, And I'd always wanted to do this, and I considered myself very, very lucky and privileged to be able to have done it. And then, after I had a kid in my class that came with a Holy Bible in my class, my bunk. Yeah. Like it's very funny because this kid actually on Bris Day, so in camp we have this thing called Bris Day. We get because a lot of kids don't have bris, don't have a ritual circumcision, so we try to get them to do that. It's a big mitzvah. It used to be back in the day back in the 90s and the 2000s, it was a lot less. It was a lot more socially appropriate or acceptable to just do it without parental consent. Now you have to do parental consent and documents and all this stuff. But basically, this kid with a Bible really, really wanted to have a bris, and he's crying, and then he found out that he already has one. It was very, very funny. What?
He was crying in vain.
He was crying in vain. Yeah. But also it was like my first fundraising experience, and really because I went to Ukraine the first summer, I got hooked, and because of that I went to Kazakhstan that Hanukkah, and then basically the next few years was between those places every few months, and this was like for me as a shliach, as a career, Chabad rabbi, this was my first hands-on experience dealing with children, dealing with influencing people on a religious level. Also for me, very, very, very valuable experience was not just relearning the Russian language, which I struggled with leading up to when I went there for the first summer, but also learning the culture. In other words, by the time I got married, I really was able to convince people that I was local. I had gotten all of the cultural experience, which helps me today. I'm saying I'm a big proponent of, we work with Russian Jews. It's not just a language, it's a mentality too.
Right.
It's not an actual linguistic
people, what they...
Very good. Right. Which is funny. I actually have a story about that. When I was one of the things that young aspiring Chabad rabbis will do is we will take a few months. Depends on the person. Depends where they're going, what the situation is. A few weeks, a few months to collect donations as like seed money in Crown Heights. If you tell someone in Crown Heights, excuse me, I'm going to open up a Chabad house, doesn't matter where, it's guaranteed money. Only one person said no to me. And I went up to one of the Rogatsky brothers. You know the Rogatskys?
Yeah, I know.
I actually told him this story. He lives as one of the brothers. He lives in the Five Towns. They were then saying Kaddish for the father. And I went up to him and asked him for a donation. And he gave me a donation. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to open a Chabad house for Russian Jews, Toronto." He says, "Russian Jews?" Because the Rogatzkys are a Russian family. He says, "I'm going to give you one piece of advice, and that if you stick to it, you'll be gold. Because Russians can smell whether you're genuine or you're a fake from a mile away.
100%, yeah.
You've got to be genuine from start to finish, and the second you stop being genuine, they'll sniff you out and
you have
forget."
to be authentic, you have to be real. Yeah.
I was at yesterday. One of the things that I do is I officiate funerals, and I officiated a funeral yesterday, and the funeral director cannot stand Russians. And I said, I understand your frustration with Russians, but let me tell you something. And he actually agreed. I said, no matter how they are, if they're really pleasant or they're really jerky or anything in the middle, Russians are 100% genuine. In other words, they won't fake it, right? If they're going to be a jerk, they will not fake it. If they're going to be really nice, they're not faking it, right? That's one of the positive aspects of our people.
Yes, I go back to Yeka. What my experience was there also. I dealt with many different kind of kids in my life. I was in camps in Israel, a little bit over here, but in Ukraine it was something really special that you could see the fruits, you could see the peiros right away. You're there like for 2 weeks, and you see how the kids, how the kid came into the camp and how he leaves the camps as a completely two different people.
It's unreal, and
yeah,
and it's such and like of the guys that went in our years, like a bunch of us are shluchim somewhere, and like that was our foundational experience in this kind of outreach work. Where were you in camp exactly? You did one year after the war started, and within.
I did 1 year before it started, meaning half a year before it started, actually. And then I did. And then what happened? Basically, there was no Pesach camp.
They use.
When the war started, there was no Pesach camp. Instead of that, we all went to Europe to help out. To help out the kids, basically. So I had that. Actually, I want to say the story. It's a wonderful story, like a crazy story. Basically,
yes, I remember. We have to get back to your education.
Yeah. So basically, I'm getting a call like Sunday morning. Like the war started like the week before, kind of like in the middle of the week, and that was like Sunday morning. I'm getting a call from one of the guys of the Yeka. He tells me, "Look, Yitzchak, we need you. You have to go to Warsaw to help our boys." I'm like, "Come on, man. First of all, you know me. I'm a very like organized guy. I can't just you call me in the morning. I'm getting on a flight at night. It's not gonna happen. It's not me. I need to come home. I need to take care of myself and whatever. Yeah." He's like, "No, we need you. You have to go. Like, there's nobody else. Like, you are the right guy for this." I'm like, "Look, but I have work. I mean, kind of, I have responsibilities over here. I can't just split them." I was like, write to the Rebbe, talk to you, Mashpia. We need you. I'm like, okay, fine. You know what? So actually, I wrote to the Rebbe, and I spoke to the principal. Told me, "Look, if that's so important, then go." It was like for 2 weeks, and yeah, basically, like 4 p.m. I came, like 4 or 5 p.m. I came home, and like 8 o'clock I was already in the airport.
That's crazy.
With the guys that I don't know, I was with Baruch Hakanov, if you know who is Baruch Hakanov.
Yeah.
So I never met the guy before. I heard about it, never met him. He like came last minute, Baruch Rabbi. He came last minute.
I don't know very well, but I know he's a character.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know the guy. I'm just going. It was really crazy. I'm not really doing this stuff. I'm going somewhere. I've never been in Poland with someone I don't know to do. I have no clue what. It was completely crazy. Meaning, I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Meaning, right now, if you would ask me, I'm gonna tell you no. I'm not gonna do that. Anyways, we're sitting in the airport, and I'm talking to them like, okay, we're coming there. What are we supposed to do? Like, where are we gonna go? Is there a Chabad house? Is there kosher for like what's going on there even? And we sit by the gate, and we see like a Lubavitcher guy, and we like approach him and like Shalom Aleichem, like are you going to Poland? He's like, yeah, I'm going to Warsaw. We're like, oh, we too? Like, who are you? He's like, who am I? Who are you? Meaning, I'm the shliach in Warsaw. We're like, oh, we're looking for you. You're the guy. You're the guy we're looking for.
So what is Shalom Bear Stumbler?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
that's so. We changed numbers. We told them we're coming to help the boys from Dnieper, from Mironova, at the Jewish orphanage in the Dnieper. So he told us, come to the Chabad house. We have mikvah, we have kosher food. Come, we're gonna help you out. So basically, we arrived in Warsaw. We took a taxi. We came there, and then from there we went to the hotel where all the refugees were staying. It was basically the hotel that Sechnut provided, the Jewish agency. Now it was still like kind of Corona a little bit, so someone told us, don't even try. They're not gonna let you in. They're not gonna. You can't even stay there in the hotel because only if you came with all the refugees. Then yes. If not, Tachlis, we came there and there was no problem. There was even an empty room for us. We booked and we stayed there with the guys. So basically, our mission was to help them to get their paperwork done and to send them to Israel. Now, I don't know if people know, but don't know, but most of the people in Ukraine and all this former Soviet Union countries didn't even have a passport. Some of them, maybe have birth certificate and that's all. So we had a few kids that it was a problem. Meaning they had like birth certificate and like I guess that's all they had. Maybe some like documents that say they're Jewish, and that was it. So those that have passport, it was a lot easier. You just go to the consul, you get like the visa, wherever it's called, and you're good to go. Guys that didn't have, you have to go to the consul. Basically, they provided a hotel in the downtown of Warsaw. The consul was sitting there, not in the embassy. Meaning in the embassy also, there was someone, but there was a consul sitting in the hotel. And you just come there, he checks your documents quickly, and yes, no, gives you the visa, and then afterwards, if you don't have a passport, you should go to the embassy and get like a one-time pass, kind of, to get on the flight and get to Israel. And then in Israel, you already can, figure out the rest of the stuff. So we had like maybe 2 boys that had passport, and the rest didn't have, so it was more complicated. So at the beginning, it took me a few days to understand what's going on, how to work it out. That was a lot easier. So for example, meaning I didn't schedule anything. I just decided, okay, we're going there because I need to get these boys out as soon as I can. We're just gonna go to the hotel. We're gonna say, we scheduled. We have an appointment with the consul. And then what did actually I came there. With Israelis, that what you should do? You should come and tell them like, yeah, scheduled everything. So I came there. I told them, look, I have boys over here from the Emperor orphans. I scheduled. The consul told us to come today, like 12 o'clock. They're like, oh really? I don't see it on my list. I'm like, yeah, you should check again. Tells me, look, I don't see it, but it's fine. There's gonna be a group at 12 o'clock. You can come with them. I'm like, okay, that's all. And like we were down like in 2 days basically. Because if not, there were people who were like there like for weeks. Because they're waiting for the appointment to come, to do this, to do that. It was not enough something. They had to bring some more documents. It's paperwork. It's all bureaucracy is very, very complicated. But Baruch Hashem, it was easy, pretty easy. Then, basically, I helped all the boys. And then also, Israel provided free flights for all the refugees. So we booked the flights for them. And basically then Baruch's father fell from the ladder. If I don't know if you heard the story or not. Basically fell from the ladder. It was a critical situation, and we had for bringing so L'chaim, and then like he just basically it was an emergency. He just left, and I was there alone, and I was actually the only bacher, the only guy over there who spoke Russian. There were a lot of American guys and Israeli guys. Nobody spoke a word of Russian. I was the only one in the whole world. So like everything that was happening, the shliach was reaching out to me. Yitzchak, I need your help. There was one hotel of the Jewish agency, and then the Federation of Jewish Communities of Ukraine, Rabbi Stambler from the Dnieper, he got another hotel, and basically I was just driving back and forth because there was nobody else who spoke Russian.
Wow.
Yeah, really, I was the only one. And then basically when all the guys left and I was there alone, it was a few days before Purim, and I said, okay, what I'm gonna do here? I'm by myself over here. I don't know anyone. I kind of finished my mission that I came for. I'm gonna go back to Crown Heights. And then the shliach tells me, look, Purim is coming again. You are the only guy here who speaks Russian. I need you. Like, please stay. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I'm like, I don't have Baruch with me. My guys already made their way to Israel. Like, why am I gonna stay? Tachlis, I decided, what? Let's make it right. I'm gonna write to the Rebbe. And I wrote a letter to the Rebbe that I'm not sure what to do. Should I stay here? Should I go back? And I put it in the Gres Kodesh. I had a Gres Kodesh with me. And you won't believe it. Like, when, at least with me, my relationship with the Rebbe, when the Rebbe really wants me to do something, he writes it very clearly that you can't have any doubts. And that's a letter. The letter says that basically about your question, should you stay wherever you are or go to a different place? I don't understand the question, because if you're needed here, why do you want to go somewhere else? And especially in connection to the days of Purim, the other Rebbe says over there. Like the days of Simcha and everything. If you can do something like happiness, the days of Purim over there, you should stay there. And I'm like, okay, it's it was very clear, and I stayed, and it was a wonderful Purim, amazing experience. We had Yidden that came right before Purim and stayed over for Shabbos. Purim was like Thursday, I think, and then there was right away was Shabbos. We had like a few families from the Donetsk region, Donbass, and people that didn't know anything about Yiddishkeit, like never heard of anything, and was meaning I honestly I almost never met a person who like never heard anything about Yiddishkeit. That was the first time I actually met people that like what is Torah, what is Tefillin, what is like didn't know any, like zero. So it was a really transforming experience also for me, because I've never met such people.
Wow.
And meaning really I came really like energized, charged up from all this experience, because how the Rebbe guided me and like gave me clear directions what to do. I don't think it ever happened in my life, not before, not afterwards, actually.
Wow, that's crazy. I never heard of this. This is like, you're saying that was their first ever Jewish experience was in Poland after running away from the war.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I'm assuming you lost your job because of that. No,
meaning I will tell you what. The administrator was really mad at me when I got back. I was really pissed off, but I told him, look, the principal told me it's okay. So what do you want from me?
And then you went back to and then you went to camp that summer.
So and then the camp was. We had two camps actually that summer. We had one in Hungary, in Balaton. The Hungarian government provided a special campus. It's like an hour and a half away from Budapest for the Jewish refugees. And we have this place. What?
There are people still there, no?
Don't stay there permanently. I think that's just, there are groups coming, going back and forth.
Oh, no, there were people living there for at least 2 years. There were people there.
There was a guy who was the Mashgiach, and there was another guy but not the refugees. The refugees, they came there. They were like a few months. And they moved, either to Berlin or Israel or some other places. Nobody stayed there really for so long, But basically, we had the first camp over there. Then we had like a break because it was about Tisha B'Av, and then after that we had a camp in Israel for another 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the next summer camp was.
I was already in Ukraine. I couldn't go. Yeah.
I was already in Ukraine. You couldn't go. So you're a teacher.
I am.
What do you love about teaching? You've been doing it for a long time. What's I've worked in education too, children's education. I worked in Cheder Menachem in Crown Heights, and it's not for the lighthearted. It really is not for the lighthearted. And I will tell you today, I wouldn't have admitted to you when I had a bit bigger ego at the age of 22, but I was not cut out to work with children. It is so, at least not to work. I'm saying in a school setting, right? And we're talking about camp is different. It takes quite a lot out of you, but you've been doing it for a while. It seems like something you love to do. I'm saying, what are your thoughts about education?
Yeah, so in Ocean Parkway, where I'm basically right now, what are my thoughts about education? I think it's very important. It's basically creating the next generation of rabbis and shluchim, and the guys are going to go to Yeka or going to go anywhere else. If not us, who's going to do it?
Absolutely.
That's one thing. The other thing is, I told you that my relationship with the Rebbe is basically that if Rebbe wants something from me, it's very clear. Sometimes, I write the Rebbe and I don't see anything. I don't understand what he wants from me. Sometimes it's so clear that I can't say anything else. So, actually, a short time ago, I wrote to the Rebbe. I went to the oil actually, and it's kind of a thing that I started doing. I didn't do it before. I started doing it. That when I'm writing my pan, I also make a copy, and one basically I drop at the oil inside. The other one, when I'm coming out, I'm putting it inside of the Igros Kodesh, and open up the Igros Kodesh. And
by the way, is the Igros Kodesh is the those that don't know is the recorded books of the Rebbe's letters.
So I put my letter in the Igros Kodesh, and let us out like that every person has a mitzvah, a commandment. There should be Zahir Tzfei. There should be more, how to say it?
More, not stringent. Isn't really the best word, but it's like their forte.
Careful about it.
We call it something forte.
And that was Rabbi writes, and your mitzvah is to work in the Mossad, in the establishment, that Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, established the yeshiva of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which is basically the yeshiva where I'm working, is the yeshiva that the Frierdiker Rebbe established. So it was very clear.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you were already working there, or
I was working there already, but still, every person has doubts if maybe I'm not doing the right thing, maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I should do something else. I don't know. Yeah, every person has doubts. I don't know if on daily basis, but once a year it for sure pops up. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I should do something else. And I wrote to the Rebbe, what? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should do something else. And Rebbe wrote me clear that that's the right thing you do, and you should continue. And you're gonna see atzlacha. You're gonna see success.
You're what you teach? You're like a classroom teacher, right?
Yeah, basically I'm a second grade teacher, so I teach Chumash, I teach basic Torah,
Wow.
And I teach how to write, in Hebrew. it's second grade already, so they know, but we're still practicing.
Right.
Um,
So I'm already the customer of Jewish education. I have a kid. My younger kids are daycare, but my oldest son is in elementary school, and I got to tell you, I'm saying the amount of responsibility that it is to educate these children is it's huge because you're not saying Jewish education is not just teaching kids how to read and how to and how to learn Chumash. It's about teaching them values and teaching them how to carry themselves and what our priorities in life. And I'm saying I have a kid in pre-1A. He's not even in first grade yet, and he comes back at least once a week. I get like pleasantly surprised by what my kid knows or what he's done, or and it's so profound, and it has such an influence on them. In either way, I'm saying it could either be a great influence, it could be or less a great influence, and that's one of the problems I think in the greater world, and especially in the public school system, is that teachers, for whatever reasons, maybe they don't get compensated enough, maybe they're not appreciated enough, but they definitely don't feel like they are raising up a new generation. They feel like they are just clocking in and handing over information as per whatever the regents in New York say, or whatever the standard is, or whatever the place that they are. Chinuch, Jewish education is so much deeper. It's so much, and it's not. It shouldn't just be Jewish education. It should really be all education for all people. As you and I know, and maybe people, the listeners know as well. The Rebbe spoke many times about education being the solution to so many of society's issues. The solution, not as a band-aid, which is what politicians love. Every time there's a school shooting, it's oh my gosh, gun control, or every time there's a bullying epidemic, so it's oh my gosh, got to teach kids about bullying, about not to bully. No. That's not preventative. That's a band-aid. That's teaching children about morals and ethics, not teaching children not to bully, but teaching children how to be good people, right? And it's such a big achrais. It's such a big responsibility. I'm saying, and that's in addition to the fact that you're on top of how many kids you have in your class? 20.
So actually, after class, I have only 13 kids.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's what makes it actually more special, because you have more time to spend with the kids, when you have kids.
Having a small class is really great.
Yeah.
Is it something that you think you'll do for good, or is this transitory?
It's hard to say. Look, as I told you, the Rabbi wrote me very clear that's what I'm supposed to do right now, and then we'll see, But yeah, right now that's the thing I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing, and I'm happy that I'm doing it because I know that I'm doing the right thing.
Wow, it's really amazing. So definitely keep that up. We need solid educators. We cannot compromise for anything less than absolutely amazing, especially today's day and age. So you think the more society moves into the future, the more necessary traditional old school education is so needed and so valuable. I'm saying the public school system. I tell people here, people not the regular, not necessarily religious people that we deal with, that you're doing your not just your kid but yourself a disservice by sending your kid to public school. No one should be sending their kid to public school. All Jewish kids should go to Jewish schools because the public schools today are so, and of course it depends where you are, but in most places everything is so backwards that we need to be giving our kids the best of the best.
Right. And actually I want to emphasize what you said before, that let's even look at me and you. Do you remember what Rabbi, your teacher, taught you in second grade or in the first grade? Probably not.
Very little.
What you do remember, most probably, if he was a good teacher or not. Meaning, was he good to you? Did he pay attention to you? Did he care about you or not? And that, I think that was special about Jewish education, and that we we also we have sessions, we have PD, professional development, and other stuff too. That of course it is important. I'm not saying that it's not important to teach the kids. That's what we're supposed to do. So teach them Chumash, the Torah, and the other stuff. But I think more important is to care about them, to give them the right way of seeing things, of how to live, of just seeing you as the teacher, but as a nice guy, as someone who cares about them. And then what they're gonna remember, and then what they're gonna walk out and remember. Oh, I had an amazing experience that year, or all the years, because the Rebbe was caring and he was a good guy, and I also want to be good.
Right, absolutely. Education is really so much more than just conveying or downloading information. And it's cool because I see it. I have a kid that first of all, I get my, I'm trying to get my money's worth, because private Jewish education, most places, is not the cheapest thing. But besides for that, I really see that my kid is coming home with so much amazing just everything, just demeanor and content, and just this whole lifestyle that he's picking up on. It's very cool. Also, these kids are very, very holy. I got to tell you, the kids today I had so my son got his hands on Pokemon cards. Okay, now those that know me know that I'm very with it. I culturally, I grew up secular, so I had Pokemon cards as a kid, right? And for me, seeing my kids with everyone knows, we don't really have it. We don't have regular TV in the house. We have Tovito, which Tovito being the Jewish kids streaming platform, which I'm sure you have to deal with, is its own monster. But at least it's not SpongeBob, right? In other words,
it's a good monster,
It's a good monster. In other words, my kids watch a lot of Tovito, but they're repeating good content versus what I would repeat from watching SpongeBob as a kid, right? Or or any other Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, all the stuff that we grew up with back in the day. So my kid comes with the Pokemon cards, and it does give me an uneasy feeling. I happen to be of the opinion that I gotta hold myself back from making my kid know whatsoever that I have any issue with him having Pokemon cards. Because I'm not losing sleep over it, but I don't love it. And so I had a conversation with him, and he blew my mind. I said to him, he's telling me about the Pokemon cards, and that there are certain Pokemon cards with the characters that's a little it's a little too goyish, it's a little out of my purview. But you have these energy cards, and they're a little more parv, they're not so whatever controversial, whatever. I totally forgot how all any of this stuff works. I told him, look, how about this? Someone once dropped these, the old style Rebbe stickers that kids would collect, kids that already
the album, yeah.
Albums, yeah. So someone once a couple years ago dropped a whole stack of them on me, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I had an idea. A light bulb turned on. I asked my son, you know what would you say? Because he already kind of gets it, because he knows we don't have he knows what Spider-Man is. We don't have Spider-Man in the house. He knows what Batman is. We don't have Batman in the house. We have certain boundaries, and we're not fanatical, right? In other words, if my kid came home with a Batman toy, I wouldn't confiscate it from him and make a whole scene. I don't think that's an effective way. But basically, I had a conversation with him, and I said, up to you, totally up to you. If I were to offer you Rebbe cards to trade you for your Pokemon cards, would you accept that? Totally up to you. I told 5 times, totally your decision. And he's like, actually, yeah. That'd be really great. Which is it blows my mind. Sometimes, sometimes these kids are so mature, even when they're not mature. And obviously, I feel I definitely think that the education that he's getting is very much positively influencing his ability to determine what fits into our
what is the right thing, what is not exactly the right thing. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So it's Jewish education. It's so amazing, and this is the next generation. Absolutely, it's not just it's leaders in all rights. I'm saying you and I know we know so many people that are that are all in education, or they're in, or they're in outreach, or they're just in business, or they're doing great things on themselves with their lives. You actually have I was talking about this with you briefly before the episode. You have a side gig that I find very, very fascinating. So some background. So there's this organization. It's a Chabad organization. It's called GEM, Jewish Educational Media. A lot of people are familiar with it because their watermark shows up very often. And most times you see a video of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that comes with a watermark from GEM. GEM is the Rebbe channel. This is they hold on to the most extensive collection of footage of the Rebbe. The Rebbe was very highly recorded, both video, audio, still images, as well as text. But you're involved in the translation of the Rebbe's the videos of the Rebbe into Russian. So I feel like I have a lot of questions. I think it's a profound thing to do, and I think it must take. It seems to me that it takes a lot of know-how, a lot of knowledge, not just of language, but of knowing how the Rebbe communicates, and also of being able to convey to the world what the Rebbe is saying. I want to give you some feedback. You should know, by the way, that people here, I've heard a lot of people bag on the different translations in different books, like the Siddur or the Chumash and stuff. Like the Tilib, the Siddur, people find mistakes in them all the time. It's very funny. There's one guy in shul who doesn't speak English, doesn't know English. He only knows Russian, and it's already happened a few times every year as he gets through whatever he's whatever part that he's getting through, and he comes to me and he points out the same mistake in the translation, or the spelling or something, and I'm like, what do you want from me? But anyway, people bag all the time on the written translations, and I've heard a lot of good feedback on the translations of the Rebbe's talks in the videos, which is something you're directly involved with. You have to first of all, you have to know Yiddish, which I'm interested. Where does your and not just know Yiddish, but know Yiddish very well. The Rebbe spoke almost exclusively in Yiddish, and to translate into Russian. I don't know. Tell me all about this. This is very interesting to me.
Okay, so now I'm gonna upset you a little bit because you already the guy knows Yiddish. Okay, so I'm gonna upset you a little bit. Basically, that's how it works. There are two parts every Motzei Shabbos, right? Whoever watches GEM knows the Living Torah has two parts. It has the program, wherever the agenda of the week, wherever that is. Like last week it was, if I am wrong, about Chob B'Shvat, right?
I missed it. I have to be honest.
Meaning about the interaction with the rabbis, and if I am wrong, something like that. And then there's a sicha. There's a program. The program meaning the people, interviews, plus a little bit of talks of the Rebbe and from the dollars, a little bit. And then the other part is only the talk of the Rebbe. So basically it's being translated into English first. Now the interviews could be in many languages. It could be in Yiddish, could be in English, could be in Hebrew, because different people were here. They all speak different languages. And then the talk of the Rebbe is for sure usually 99% in Yiddish. So now what I do is basically there is someone who is translating it from the English to Russian, and now I'm basically looking over it, making sure that there are no mistakes, because sometimes there are, because you should be aware of the terms. Some people don't know the terms, maybe Jewish terms, might be English terms, and basically what's special about me, as we said before, I lived in Israel, I lived in Ukraine, I live here, so I know all the terms, Israeli terms, and Russian, Ukrainian terms, and American terms. So I can see, if something doesn't sound good. Like, for example, there was one time there was something about about them, I think, filming the Rebbe, and the guy said that I had 8mm film, and that's how the guy translated it to Russian. Now you don't say film; there's a different language. There's a different word for it in Russian,
right?
For the film, But that's very challenging because he didn't know what does it mean. So that's basically my work. I'm kind of making sure that it's translated properly. Now, sometimes because I know Hebrew and I know English, I don't know Yiddish so well. If I see something wrong in the sicha or in the talk, then I try to listen myself and see if I can actually catch it. But if the interview is in Hebrew and English, and I hear something that's not adding up over here, so then I'll fix it myself. And I'll sometimes I add a few words that were not there. Yeah, that's basically what I do.
I'm saying still you have to have it. You have to be able. It's a lot. It's a big responsibility. In other words, if you making a mistake in this translation is the difference between conveying a message meaningfully and conveying it and completely botching it. Which means you got to go all the way back and understand what the Rebbe was talking about. Maybe you're not translating it word for word, but you got to understand the content of the message and the tone that it's being translated to, right?
Yeah.
Gem in general, by the way, I think Gem is one of the is a great organization, and it's actually the truth is when we bring groups to Chronites, not always do. I don't think I've ever taken anybody there to their office, but their office is fascinating. And maybe can you get us exclusive access next time we come?
I could try to arrange, yeah.
But actually, it's actually a great idea because the equipment that they have over there and like the whole setup and all the work that they do is really fantastic, and it's extremely intense. I'm saying, if you ever hear anything about the process of like what the guys do with the audio editing and the video editing and
of course it's intense. Look, in 1 week they pull out the whole program. They don't prepare it like a month before. All the people think, they probably worked on it a while. No, they start working it on Sunday and they finish it on like Wednesday night, Thursday morning. And then, all the people working on translation for, other languages, including me. And then basically it's, it's done on Friday.
It's very intense. Y.Y. Jacobson says from his days as transcribing the Rebbe's talks that even after that finished, he still had anxiety on Saturday nights because that's when the night they would sit down and do the Chazara. Basically, the Rebbe would speak on Shabbat. They had a bunch of people that memorized their, but speaking about it, and then they had to all download their memories, what they memorized, onto pieces of paper, and it was very, very nerve-wracking. And he says for years and years after that, like you still live with like the anxiety that of Shabbos goes out, and then you have to like pull out of yourself a whole load of information. It's intense. I'm sure it takes a lot, and it's very, very cool. And obviously it's bringing some of the most important, perspectives in Judaism and Jewish life out into the forefront. I'm saying honestly, thanks to Gem, we for example, in big part thanks to Gem, we know exactly what the Lubavitcher Rebbe thinks about Israel. Everything. You cannot. There is no lack of clarity anymore.
Yeah, very, very clear.
and it's in front of the world, and thanks to I'm saying Gem put out, especially since October 7th. Some really, really powerful content, and I'm saying Gem also because of all the Gem's footage was used, for example, to make for Alicia Pearl's book. They wrote the Peace Book, where he basically lays out with the Rebbe's entire perspective on Israeli security. I'm saying that's a big part, and thanks to Gem, and it's having an effect. I'm saying Gem videos go viral all over the world in a bunch of different languages. On social media, I'm saying their social media game, by the way, is you manage the Russian social media too, or no?
Meaning,
I think they have a Russian. They send daily videos out on WhatsApp and Telegram. And
I'm not related to that, really.
just the translation. Yeah. We're almost at an hour, but I wanted to ask you about two more things. One is another side gig that you have, nothing that really pays the bills, but it's very interesting. You are also a podcaster, as I mentioned, in your own right.
Honestly, nothing pays the bills besides the school. But yeah, meaning I do even the jam I do like as a mitzvah because I can't really. I can say it over here. I don't mind. I'm over here on R1 visa. I'm a religious worker. That's why I am.
Oh, you have a religious worker visa.
Yeah, it's even called. I have a special title. It's called something. The Minister of Religion, something like that. So I'm a minister. All right.
Yeah.
So officially, I cannot work anywhere else beside the school I work in. So that's honestly what I do. So Jam is honestly I do it because I truly believe it's supposed to be something proper. How can you pull out a video of the rabbi when it has mistakes in the translation? It just looks bad. So I do it for the thing. The podcast also. The podcast that I have a podcast in Russian. Yes, I guess if you want, you gotta include the link.
We'll include the link in the show notes. Yes.
So whoever speaks Russian and is interested can, listen to my podcast and subscribe. I don't do on a weekly basis. Maybe once a month, once in 2 months. Depends.
Okay, it's very hard. I understand that you don't do it. I totally get where you're coming from.
Because if just look on Spotify podcasts or Apple podcasts, you almost have no content in Russian, like Jewish content. Yeah, something like old or something that also was discontinued. You don't have anything consistent. You don't have anything that also like too interesting. It's like very basic stuff. Maybe like on the Parsha, and like that's gonna be it. So I'm trying to make something new, to bring up some topics, to maybe interview some interesting people. Do something more interesting for the people.
Well, your last episode, which is the one that I listened to, was all about your trip to Washington to witness the peaceful transfer of power. What was that like? You were ever in Washington before?
I was, yeah. I've been there before.
Washington is a beautiful city, and it's even more beautiful when you're in the mood. Sometimes when the country kind of feels like it sucks, you want to blow the place up. But it's very funny because there was the last time before I was just in DC. The last time I went there with my wife, we were there briefly. We were walking through, and of course everything is pristine and nice, at least in the government quarter. And I'm like, wow, this place is so amazing. But like, honestly, I feel like I want to see it all burned down. What was that? I'm saying, what was your experience like?
Well, that was, I guess, once in a life experience. If I will do it again, no. I'll be honest, and I said it in my podcast, I'm not going to do it ever. I think it was enough for one time, but it was, it's like the Friedrich Rebbe said about, going to jail, about the Yud Beis Tammuz. Like, if you would ask me if I would do it again, if I would, no. But if I'm grateful that I've been there, yes. So kind of the same a little bit. It was an interesting experience. Look, you could see, especially as a foreigner, you could see the American people. You could see, the inauguration. That was happening. Meaning, again, I would take it like, meaning I am kind of pro-Trump in general, but I think over there they gone a bit too far. Meaning, that what I was, if you listen to my podcast, that what I was actually speaking about there. That is that why we have the mitzvah to not to make idols, and not to basically turn people into idols, because then it's not the intention. It's not, meaning it might be an amazing person, but it's don't turn them into an idol. And that what a little bit happened over there. Meaning what I felt from the crowd and from the people, that they took it too far. Trump is an amazing guy, does good stuff, for the most part at least. But don't turn him into an idol. He's not idol. He's a person.
I saw, maybe you saw this as a video from this Jewish comedian Davi Newberg, I think, I forget what his name is, but he says, I think I finally realized why Orthodox Jews love Donald Trump so much. It's because he uses the word tremendous. Everything is tremendous, and if like Orthodox Jews, everything is tremendous too. Like their most overused word, right? Tremendous. Yeah, that's true. That's something we have to be wary of always.
Yeah.
Is not to depend too much on one person or another person. I'm saying this is, in the last few weeks, the pro-Israel crowd, which we are amongst, has been shocked in a very positive way, in the sense that there's been a complete 360, complete flip around in American policy regarding Israel. And I actually spoke about this in the podcast before, and this was like when Biden was tying Israel's hands behind it. We know now so much more about what was going on behind the scenes. It's disgusting. Okay, and now everyone's on this honeymoon with Trump with with all these new plans, and then he's speaking of the things that he's speaking more Zionist than the most ardent Zionists ever spoke. right? And now all the politicians in Israel don't know what to do with themselves because they can't say that that he's crazy and that this is ridiculous. But But 5 minutes ago, what he's saying was the most messianic, racist, crazy thing in the world. And to me, it just brings out more that Israel should be completely cut off from the United States. Israel should have no dependency on the United States. And it happens to be, by the way, what people don't realize is that a lot of these security packages and stuff that Trump is approving and Biden disapproved, these are all things that Israel was paying for with their own money. Okay, so whatever Israel can pay for with their own money, by all means. But to be in a position where your policy is dependent on the whims of whoever is taking office in America, and that changes every 4 years or every 8 years, right? It's so dangerous. And we've seen, like, literally the only honestly, tomorrow today's the 19th of February. Today we found out that the Bibas family is dead. It's one of the most disheartening moments in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that they would have been home alive within a month of October 7th if it wasn't for the Biden administration, and if it also wasn't for the Israelis feeling so dependent on what the Americans think or what the world thinks. Basically, to say that in the end of the day, we can't be too much in one camp, we can't be too much in another camp, because you never know how things will turn out, and we have to be able to be self-sufficient as Jews, and generally also not to make idols and to make to make gods out of mortal men. And so, as great as it is to hear the rights, I'm saying again, you have Mike Huckabee, who's like more Zionist than like 90% of Israel. He's a fundamentalist, evangelist, pastor. Okay, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, religious Catholic that says I want to see the third temple built on the Temple Mount. Right, this is all great, right? And by the way, from the other side, right, the second temple wasn't built without the permission of the king of Persia.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, it's a very good thing, but ultimately the lesson is that we should not, as Jews, we should not remain dependent on these people, no matter who they are, no matter how much they purport to be good friends, because you never know when they can turn on you, and we know this in Jewish history very well. I was there too in Washington. I thought the same way that I happened to be in New York, and I would have honestly, I don't know, maybe if because I can't really be super political, and I don't want to be super political. I guess it would depend, who was becoming president, but I happened to be there on the same weekend, and so I would have definitely considered it no matter who was getting inaugurated, because it's to see the system play itself out is fascinating, right? I'm saying, and I grew up learning about all this. I was fascinated by this. I actually in my third grade class, I was in third grade in 2004. It was George W. Bush's re-election. I actually have a letter from him hanging on my wall here, in response to a letter that I wrote to him. I'm telling him about how I actually ran a mock election in my third grade class. In other words, during recess, I think it was one recess, maybe 2 days, basically going around and collecting votes for my entire class. So politics for me was always very fascinating. To see it happen in real life was really cool. And I've never seen so many police officers and soldiers in one place. Like DC was on hard lockdown. The sad part was that everything was moved inside, and so we couldn't go to the National Mall and have that full-on, stand out in the freezing cold and watch it on big screens experience. You were in the stadium, so you saw the whole hearing.
I've seen the whole thing.
But I was in a heated private Jewish event in a beautiful space with kosher food, and interesting people, and I actually was also just a day trip with my uncle, which was a really good time, and it was very, very cool to see. It was very, very, very cool to see. And then I got on a Lime scooter and scooted around DC for an hour, which is also very fun.
Yeah, I just spent there the whole day, because we were standing in the line, and then we got in, and then we're there from 10:30 in the morning until 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Yeah, I spent there the whole day.
Food with you?
That was the thing. It couldn't really bring anything inside. They only allowed me to bring tefillin because I told them I'm religious. I can't leave it. I cannot take it with me. But people like screw bags over there. Like it couldn't bring anything inside besides like necessities. Like tefillin and like maybe like a phone, camera. Also like the small camera, big camera also couldn't bring. So I brought like a few like small treats wherever. Like not candy, like like wafers wherever. Yeah, that was it,
Wow. Well, Yitzchak, we've been on for over an hour, and it's really nice talking to you, and learning about you, and also hearing about your experiences. And you seem like you've seen a lot, and you have a lot of good things to tell. So thank you for coming on the Millennial Rabbis podcast. Thank you for
having me. It was also nice spending time with you.
Yes.
I wish you a in your shlichus.
Thank you, and you as well. And keep up the good work. And to all the listeners and out there, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you stay tuned for the next one. Hopefully it'll come soon. Davi Kievman, my co-host, where are you, man? Shout out to him. Davi, we gotta record an episode. I can't hold it in anymore. I gotta tell everybody. Okay, Yitzchak, talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.